Thanks for joining me today. Another episode of Stand on Guard. We're going to be talking about liberal math, and I'll explain what that means in a few minutes.
So we are in a very precarious position in this country. We need political change, but we also need the resolve to resist.
So what is liberal math? Well, you might call it the new math because it really doesn't compute very well. But I was noticing this, the liberals are putting out this crazy material on X, formerly known as Twitter. And it really doesn't make much sense. And let's have a closer look at the liberal math slide here versus the conservative math. See, the conservative math adds up because they're saying that you're going to have more money in your pockets if we don't have a carbon tax. But what are the liberals saying? It's X, Y, Z. Very strange. And X, Y, Z equals fighting climate change and growing our economy. Well, the truth of the matter is they're not really fighting climate change at all. It's a big farce. It's a big joke. And they're not growing the economy. They're shrinking the economy. We're losing vital elements of our economy because they're part of fossil fuels. And there's no green energy magic that's going to replace it. So what does the liberal math say? It says, put a price on pollution. It's a lie. Carbon is not a pollution. That cleans our air and puts more money in Canadians' pockets. Lie. You're not getting more money back on this carbon tax rebate than you are spending on the carbon tax itself. That is a falsehood, a lie, prevarication. It's mendacity. The liberals are telling a fib, big time fib, but they keep repeating the lie. They learned that from Joseph Goebbels, obviously. The why part of the program is protect our environment by banning single-use plastics and planting 2 billion trees. Well, great. I hope they get 2 billion trees planted, but they're not going to ban single-use plastics. How are they going to enforce that from all this material coming up from the United States and other countries, Mexico, other countries that don't have that kind of regulation in place? What does it mean then? We're not going to be getting any food from the United States and Mexico in the winter? No fruits, no vegetables? These things are covered in plastic. The single-use plastic thing is a big fraud. So what's the Z or the Z here? Make Canada a leader in the clean economy to create middle-class jobs. Another lie. There aren't, okay, this is such garbage. It absolutely makes me angry. I'm enraged that they continue to lie about these middle-class jobs. What? How are they making solar panels? No, we're importing all the solar panels from China, Trudeau's friends in China. So, yeah, all of these high-priced jobs, upper middle-class jobs, really, people working the oil patch, they're going to lose all those jobs and end up working as janitors. In fact, there's an internal memo from the Trudeau government from last summer that admits that. So this is all chicanery. And what does it come to? This X, Y, Z equals what? What does it remind you of? George Orwell, of course. Yes, the great one. Truly the great one, who said in 1984, 2 plus 2 equals 5, because the state tells you that it equals 5. Even though in your head, you still might say, excuse me, 2 plus 2 equals 4. The state says, no, it doesn't. In the end, the party makes that decision, and you would have to believe it. It was inevitable that you should make that claim sooner or later. The logic of their position demanded it. Not merely the validity of experience, but the very existence of external reality was tacitly denied by their philosophy. The heresy of heresies was common sense. That is what the Trudeau government is all about. It is adamantly opposed to common sense, and its math doesn't add up. So let's have a look at perhaps why the math doesn't add up. Let's listen to just a younger Justin Trudeau.
Those easy things that people do so well. 13 plus 14. 7. Under pressure, it's even worse. So if I pick up numbers and try to do it. 2 plus 3 minus 1 times 2 minus 4 plus 2. How many people followed that?
Okay, now that's embarrassing. That's embarrassing. But that's the kind of prime minister you have, folks. Yeah, he can't do basic math. But you know what? You know what else? There's a scandal that has been brewing for quite some time. And thank God to a whistleblower, we're finding out about it. And it's in the senior leadership of the Sustainable Development Technology Canada, SDTC. And this is what they call the Green Fund. And it's basically it's ad scam all over again. It's like all of this money is available to friends of the Liberal government who make any claim to have produced or will be producing something called green energy. And these are crackpot theories. These are crackpot ideas that the Liberal government is rewarding with $1 billion fund. And they recently, a whistleblower revealed what was said at a meeting. And it was Doug McConaughey laid out his unvarnished thoughts, according to this CBC report. There's a lot of sloppiness and laziness. There is some outright incompetence. And the situation is just kind of untenable at this point. He said, these words were recorded. Let's listen to this.
Preliminary findings of the fact-finding exercise is that there is smoke around the vast majority of the allegations. We said we would believe you. Now there's enough evidence to say that we really do believe you, and that means that that the government is going to have to take action. There's a lot of sloppiness and laziness. There is some outright incompetence, and the situation is just kind of untenable at this point. I think the minister is going to flip out when he hears the stuff, and he's going to want an extreme reaction, like shut it all down.
Free money. This is what this is all about. This is free money. But except, you know what? Nothing is free. There's no free money in this society. Taxpayers are paying for this. And there's more. There is more here in terms of what this actually means. They're talking about $40 million in funding during the COVID-19 pandemic to companies that already had financing agreements with this organization, which is now being grouped under Innovation, Science, and Economic Development, ISED. And this is all under the management of a Liberal cabinet minister named Philip Champagne. So this is a disaster in the making. But once again, it's bad math. Liberals can't add, they can't subtract, but they sure know how to give away your money. And they don't want proper accounting because they don't believe in arithmetic or math. And this is what's going on here. And I tell you, it's an outrage. But everything about this Liberal government is bad math. They don't add up. Nothing computes. What else doesn't compute? I love to talk about this. Because their whole climate change scam doesn't add up. They keep telling you they have a carbon tax in place and it's going to fight climate change. It's going to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. Except we just discovered last week in question period, the Liberals have failed to meet their emissions targets despite a carbon tax, which keeps going up. And they will quadruple to 61 cents on every liter of gas that you pump. That's where it's going. And this doesn't compute in the overall picture. Not only is the carbon tax not affecting our greenhouse gas emissions, because people still need to buy gas. The electric cars are not going to replace them because we can't replace the batteries in the electric cars. We can't even charge them. So most Canadians, of course, are still using cars powered by the combustion engine and gas. And they still drive to work. They still drive to pick up their children at the soccer practice or at hockey in the morning. They still use their cars. They're not using buses to do this. They're not using the subway And they're not using electric cars. So it is a fraud. It's a fraudulent claim, just like the Liberals' fraudulent claim. And I'll get to the slide in a minute. But their fraudulent claim that heat pumps are going to replace home heating fuel. Heat pumps don't work in temperatures below minus 15 degrees Celsius. That means in January and February in most parts of Canada, they won't work. So why even call them heat pumps? They're not going to be pumping any heat into your house. This is a cruel joke from the Liberal government. But so is their claim that Canada is somehow a world leader in fighting climate change. This is garbage. Look at this graph here, and you'll see China is producing 33% of global greenhouse gas emissions, and they don't give a damn about it. They're going to keep doing that, and they're going to keep thumbing their nose at Canada and the woke idiots who lead that government, including Stephen Gilbo, the Minister of Environment and Climate Change, and of course the Prime Minister himself, who actually likes to tell us that ordinary Canadians can't sleep at night because they're fretting about our global carbon footprint and their individual carbon footprint, and it just makes them so upset. They really are so focused on climate change they can't think of anything else. It doesn't matter about high interest rates. It doesn't matter they can't pay the rent or the mortgage. It doesn't matter that they can't buy enough food because the grocery bill is so high. It doesn't matter that they can't even fill up their gas more than twice a month, their gas tank more than twice a month. That doesn't matter to them. Only climate change matters, according to Justin Trudeau and Stephen Gilbo. Two of the most lightweight intellects that have ever inhabited a Canadian government or a government anywhere. They don't even think about what they're saying. But look at where Canada is on this chart. 1.5%. 1.5% of greenhouse gas emissions. That is nothing in the larger scheme, in the larger picture, in the aggregate. Nothing at all. So even if, as it says here, even if every citizen dies in Canada, or even if we all move out of our homes and apartment buildings and into caves, stop using all fossil fuels, all energies, and just subsist on what? Firewood? I don't know. We're still not going to make any significant impact on the global carbon footprint. And you don't think Justin Trudeau's read this slide? You don't think he knows Canada produces only 1.5% of those emissions? Of course he does. He's lying to you. It's a farce. It's a joke. It's a political game. Because if you focus on climate change and he tells you that's the only thing that matters, you won't focus on his bad leadership. You won't focus on his catastrophic economic policies. You won't talk about how he's censoring the internet and social media and there's wars coming. You won't talk about the fact he's got a euthanasia program going in Canada and people are literally coming to Canada to die. You won't talk about those other issues because you'll think climate change is more important. But thank God, I know the people listening to this broadcast right now are smarter than that. They're not as stupid as Trudeau thinks they are. No, you're not. I'll tell you who really comes up with some stupid ideas, though. Here he is, Stephen Gilbo. Yes, Smokey the Bear. He's the one who keeps telling you that all of those forest fires last summer were directly a result of climate change. Evidence? None whatsoever. Fantastic, incredible, stupid claim that Gilbo and other members of that cabinet keep making without any evidence, any cause whatsoever. We know that's garbage. And besides, I thought the carbon tax was fighting climate change. And if it's fighting climate change, how come there were more forest fires last year? How come there were more than we've had in decades? But it's supposed to be related to climate change, and you're supposedly stopping climate change by fighting it and reducing our emissions. And once again, your arithmetic, your math isn't computing, Gilbo. But you know what? There might be another answer for all those forest fires. Yeah. Arson. Arson was a major reason for forest fires. And you can bet there are people crazy enough out there, climate change extremists, climate change activists who would start a fire just to fabricate a climate crisis. So there, you flick your Bic and you start a climate crisis and you say the forest fire was really a result of climate change. That's how these liberals work. That's how their math works. And you know what? It ain't working too well. And I got to tell you, please like this station, subscribe, ring the bell, and please join this movement to resolve to resist. That's what we're here for. We are here to resist the excesses of this liberal dictatorship, of this Trudeau tyranny. We are here to stop what's going on, to raise awareness that there is no catastrophic existential threat from climate change that's going to end the world in 10 years. That is nothing but a lie. What we need to do is focus on energy that is sustainable, yes, but not make radical changes overnight and pretend that electric cars are going to fill a need and that we can suddenly magically get rid of combustible engines overnight or by 2030, or that we can reduce fertilizer emissions by 30% by 2030 and forget about the consequences for farmers. That we can do extreme policies and not have severe economic dislocation. Stop pretending that this is working. It is a failure. And you cannot tell people they won't use propane. They can't use natural gas. They can't put gas in their cars. And they have to use hydroelectricity and nothing else, even if they don't live in Quebec and Ontario, where that kind of power is not achievable. And don't listen to this garbage about heat pumps being a panacea. This is a fraud and a phony claim. And it's really a cruel joke, as I've said, because anyone who is eligible for the free heat pump, and of course nothing's free, is it? When your taxes are paying for it. But anyone eligible for this so-called free heat pump has got to be making such a little amount of annual income per household that it's very unlikely they own a house. Very, very unlikely. And I tell you, if you're renting an apartment, you're probably not going to be investing $20,000 in a heat pump or even getting a free one because you don't own the place. And that is the absolute fallacy behind Hitler's logic. It's all about arithmetic. He's putting this country deeper and deeper into debt. The deficits are rising. He says he doesn't care about deficits. He doesn't care about the national debt. He just cares about spending your money. And don't believe a word of what he's saying about how well Canada's doing, how good you have it, how the economy is functioning so well, how we've never had it better. These are great economic times. It's a lie. The cost of living is going up every day. You tell me how far your dollar goes now as opposed to 6 months, a year ago. We have not gotten through the lockdowns of the COVID-19 pandemic without serious dislocation to this economy. And the liberals keep lying to you about all the jobs they're creating. They never tell you about all the jobs they destroyed with their lockdowns and their COVID-19 mandates. How many people lost their jobs, couldn't work because they chose not to get the COVID vaccine. They never want to talk about that because that's all bad news. And they really have no good news to spin. That's why they keep obsessing about climate change. That's why they keep obsessing about how you need to think about nothing else. Watch Question Period. That's all they want to talk about. How the carbon tax is somehow putting more money in your pockets. And we all know that's a lie. Anyway, thanks for watching today. We're going to try to be up every day on Stand on Guard. We have to stand on guard with more diligence because this is not just a broadcast for today. It's a broadcast for tomorrow and for next month and for next year. We need to band together to resolve to resist the Trudeau tyranny. And you need to support this station to beat Trudeau's censorship. And I welcome your support in whatever way you can. Thanks for being here today. And I tell you,